Hey, welcome in everybody to Taking a Stand. We are excited about what we have to share with you guys today. We're going to be talking with our special guest today, Paul White. And Paul White was a teacher and principal at all grade levels for 38 years. And he's still alive after 38 years as an educator.
A little less hair than I had, but
yeah, I won't mention the color of it. But no, Paul transformed 12 different schools in 7 different school districts, and he specialized in turning troubled schools into great schools by transforming attendance rates, making the schools drug, gang, and violence-free, and making the students respectful to their educators. He was a 2-time Educator of the Year, and his Los Angeles school was named one of the top 5 stories of the year by People Magazine and CBS National News. And there's a 4-minute video on that people can check out if they want to Google that. Paul also co-authored White's Rules, Saving Our Youth One Kid at a Time, and has written and spoken nationally on how to transform schools. Welcome into our show here, Taking a Stand, Paul. We're thrilled to have you. Blessing.
I'm equally thrilled to be here, Pastor Phil, and thank you for your interest in this.
Yeah. And today, Paul and I are going to be discussing 7 great features of any great school district. And these are things that you've come up with, right, Paul, as you've worked with kids now for such a long time. You've been a part of school systems. You've been a part of the education process. How did you come up with these, and how did you settle on these?
Well, they're just things that if you're going to have schools that are effective, and by effective, I'd mean transform kids' lives to be educated, selfless, loving, contributing members of society.
Yeah.
This is what you need.
Yeah.
And you'll see that these are really no different than what you need to be a good teacher, a good lawyer, a good pastor.
Yeah. I've read through these. I agree. I think they're great. I don't think you're demanding anything that's outrageous here or something that nobody could ever achieve to. I think These are very basic, reasonable guidelines, great features for any great school district, as you say. One thing I do want to say before we move forward is to let you guys know that Paul is running for the school board here in Washoe County School District. He's seeking one of the at-large spots that's available. And, it's really important for those of us that care about our kids, who truly care about our kids here in Washoe County, and we care about our city, we care about our state and our nation, to get men and women that hold to these conservative values and principles that are going to be for the actual good and the fruitfulness of our community. And so I just want to make sure that we let you know that Paul White is running for one of those at-large spots on the school board here in Washoe County, so you guys can vote for him. That's coming up. When is that? June 11th, right?
Election is June 11th.
Okay. June 11th, guys. So I just want to make sure I put that out there before we go any further. So let's get into these 7 great features. Paul, why don't you go through them and let's talk about them.
Pretty basic ones. The first 3 are pretty reasonable, Phil. They have to show up nationwide.
Makes sense.
We have a problem with kids showing up. I mean, how are you going to hold a job? How are you going to maintain a family? In other words, if school is preparing you for your future, you have to show up. You have to show up on time, and there has to be accountability if you don't.
Right.
You have to show up clean and sober.
Okay.
And that's not happening either in our schools. We'll go into more details of how that is. The situations in our school are greatly underreported. Yeah. So you show up on time.
Okay.
You act respectful and toward other students and your teachers, nonviolently.
Right.
Before we go home today, 4 schools out today in America, 12 to 1,500 teachers will have been beaten.
Wow.
That's a day.
That's crazy.
That's a day. And again, we'll give details on how that looks close to home.
Okay.
You have to have strong and consistent parent accountability.
Okay.
Parents from the schools and the student and the parents, if that's like a triangle, the least responsible part of that triangle is inevitably the parents.
Yeah.
The least is held to them. And there's ways to do this. And in my school, one L.A. when you mentioned, ran for 10, 12 years. parents were required to come to, we called it what it was, parent education night.
Yeah, yeah.
And you show up, or a member of your family shows up, and you don't miss, or the next day your child's looking for a new school.
Wow.
That's how important the parent is to that child.
Wow, so it was you got to be there.
Absolutely. We made it effortless. You could have anybody representing your family, but somebody shows up.
Right.
So you've got those. Racial harmony and sexual identity. Both of them are done kind of the same way. Where the Bible says God's no respecter of persons. Mm-hmm. Schools shouldn't be either.
Yeah.
They should look at them individually and say, it's not your color. It's not whether you feel like you're male or female or whatever. You have things that you're responsible to do here. Yeah. And not everything in your life is an issue for school to deal with. So race-wise, everybody has a expectation to work hard, be respectful, be honest. We would, as far as sexual identity, we'd say, we identify you with what it says on your birth certificate. Yeah. And we would expect that however you see yourself, there's no exception for not being respectful, hardworking, not bothering others, and not making the side issues the focus of schools.
I love that. Paul. If I could just jump in real quick.
It solves it like this.
Yes, I think we're getting so distracted by all of the side issues, we've lost sight of what school is supposed to be for.
We're not doing any. Well, and then the key is, you hear people talk about, and they should, the test scores. What our kids know is the functional illiteracy rate is ridiculous. Yeah. But people don't realize that the score academics are the side effect of these other issues being in place. You've heard that 2 ways to make a dog's tail wag. Yep. Grab that tail. Yep. Or love that dog. And you couldn't stop the tail if you wanted. Right. Well, the way to get academic excellence is to have a learning environment where they're there every day, they're clean and sober, they're respectful, they're working hard, the parents are involved. You couldn't keep them from learning if you wanted to. Right. Yeah, that's just, it creates the environment that they need to be able to focus and to have that direction that they need to be pushed in, and you don't even have to push them in it. I think, it's like natural. You said, it's something that they are going to want to do if the environment is right. It's who they are. And we used to tell them just, pretty straight up when we would bring kids in with, a lot of tough backgrounds. We'd say it's real easy. We'd say, we don't believe God made any mistakes. Mm-hmm. We don't believe anybody's life's irreparably broken. Yeah. We don't believe there's any exceptions. Mm-hmm. And if you do these things, you'll find that. We found people, believers, non-believers, whatever, nobody could really argue with that. Right, no, those are great principles that lead to flourishing. They lead to human flourishing, and I think that's what I see in your heart here for these kids, and I see that as my heart, and I think anybody that wants to see a flourishing community is we want to see these kind of things happening in our schools so that kids are being built up and equipped for the future so that they can have a successful life, not a life that's training them for bad things. And they want to have that, and they are not comfortable when there's not firm, fair guidelines that are consistently enforced. Yeah. The other 2 things that just make sense with good schools, great schools, is the 2 graduation requirements that aren't added that absolutely should be, and they're very simple, is one, every child, what's school for? To prepare you for the work world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a graduation requirement should absolutely be, say at least 200 hours of paid employment before you graduate. Okay. It's effortless. Okay. And the other one would be a non-teaching educator is an oxymoron. Okay. And, there's a famous little T-shirt. It says, the older I get, the better I was. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in administration, you often have schools led by individuals who have not personally sat and had to deal with a class of 30 to 40 kids for decades. Gotcha, yeah. And so they lose track of how to support teachers with that, how to encourage it, how to correct it. Okay. So as long as I was, about half my career was administration, including up to a charter school superintendent. And always in my career and always any administrators that worked with me, everybody taught classes during the week.
Yeah.
You teach several a week, and it keeps you in the mix. And
I like that idea.
Keeps your credibility up.
Yeah. That definitely puts you right face to face with your pupils, your students, and you begin to understand, okay, here's the challenges we're up against as educators to reach these students and to teach them well. And so it keeps you right, your credibility and your methods and everything current.
Right.
So.
And when you're in there with them, you also are experiencing what it feels like to tell them something, and somebody says no.
Yeah, right.
If you haven't been teaching, you say, well, gosh, Phil, just take care of that. Do this and this.
You can be out of touch.
And you might say, why don't you come in my room and show me how to do it?
Yeah.
And that's what needs to be done.
I want to go back to the one that you just gave about the additional graduation requirements, and one of those being work hours. And you said 200 hours is effortless, I think you said.
For 4 years in high school, sure.
Explain how you mean that. Like, would this be like work done at the school? Would this be work done in the community?
Oh, no, this would be typically when I've done it. I've always had it at my schools. I mean, mine wasn't a 200-hour requirement. Mine was minimum 12 hours a week, every week, as long as you're there, and you maintain a savings account, and you learn to put a certain amount away. And
that's good training.
Oh, sure. The rules would just be working for somebody you're not related to.
Okay. I
said, of course, your mom and dad are going to tell you great. They're stuck with you.
Yeah.
But out there working for somebody, because I said there's a sense of self-worth that comes from being paid by somebody who doesn't know you. They obviously see something of value in you. You start seeing it yourself.
Yeah.
And then I forgot the other of the two. So one is the 200 hours paid employment. The other is equal number of hours in volunteer community service.
Okay.
Usually people you want to be with are people who are interested in caring for others.
Right.
And you don't learn that through osmosis any more than you'd learn algebra.
Right.
You practice your active, functional, working, compassion, and faith by works that you're out there doing. So, you go to nursing homes, work in volunteer at animal shelters, just unlimited with that. But many good results from both those requirements.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like common sense. Some good common sense things that could be really good for the kids. I've got 2 kids that are of the age that they can work, and they're working outside the home, and they love it, and it's providing a little income for them. So they can get the extra special shoes that they want. That I'm not willing to throw down the money for, but they will. But it's also taught them some good character qualities as well. And as a parent, I see them contributing and being a part of a team, and they're learning some things, and they're having things reinforced that I, as a parent, tried to teach them, but now they see why I tried to teach it to them, because when you're working for somebody, you all these things come into play.
And the boss will tell them what they've heard from you, but never sometimes pay attention to.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, you'll like this, that requirement started with any child I ever worked with 11 years old and up.
Okay.
And parents say, oh my gosh, what do you mean 11? I said, well, 2 things. One, the work requirement doesn't mean you have to necessarily go into a national chain like McDonald's.
Okay.
This can be someone running a little hamburger shop in town or whatever. And for the younger ones, it would turn into, money's not an issue in that case, interning. And going, and so I've had all kinds of internships. Now, from about 13 up, it was, you find something that's paying you.
Okay.
And the parent would often say, oh gosh, they're not getting a job, and they'd have a certain amount of time to do it. And if they didn't lock in the job by that time, you have to have accountability. I'd say, well, hey, no problem. I'm sure you're trying, but come on back when you got one.
Yeah.
And never had one that couldn't come back.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow. All right. So, just to review these, I want to go through them one more time. So our first one is daily attendance of at least 90%, zero tolerance for tardies.
0.
Okay. The second one, zero tolerance for use or possession of any controlled substances. That's
0.
That should go without saying.
It does.
Zero tolerance for physical assaults or verbal abuse of staff or students. Sad that we even have to put that in writing, right? I mean, that should be the way it is, period.
There's 1,200 teachers a day.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. And then strong and consistent parent accountability, racial harmony and sexual identity, additional graduation requirements, and a non-teaching educator is an oxymoron. We want all the educators to have time in the classroom, face-to-face with the students.
We have literally hundreds of employees in most districts, including ours, who are licensed to teach and don't.
Yeah.
And also look what it does for providing extra help for teachers, for filling spots where most school districts are very short on qualified teachers, and helps everybody.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Well, guys, these are great features of any great school district. Paul White is sharing these with us. And Paul, we want to thank you for coming in today. And we're going to welcome you back for our next show, which will be talking a little bit more about the Washoe County School District in a more personalized fashion, as you have a lot of information to share with us.
Look forward to it.
All right, thank you.